Hello. Okay, looks like I have audio back. Not really sure what that was going on for. Sorry about that. Hopefully you've seen some of the stats pulled up on the screen. Currently we have 3 teams sat in first jointly. It's Eat Dirt Shake, Dirt Super 6 and Riding Dirty. So we've got a great competition at the moment in A. All to play for going into the last 3 events. And Aero as well, sorry. Don't want to miss them out. So currently we're on the New York KOM reverse. It's a bit of an interesting segment. You have about 2 minutes of hard work before the segment starts itself, and then you're into these punchy little climbs. So you've got Joachim Leeson up in first, who's riding for Riding Dirty, then PJ Kings, I believe, for Dirt Super 6 up in second. So on this climb, it's a very, very punchy climb. There are these rest points. You can see we're down to 1%, 0% for a bit. Then you have another punch up to the finish. Leeson's attacked hard and he's doing it very well, conserving through the flats and then punching up hard. So we've just got one more bend after this one and they'll be at the line. I think he's going to be comfortably in first. The question is, how much is he wanting to conserve at this point? He's clearly off the front of the group. Will he be able to stay away if someone attacks hard? We've got Dimmock coming through for Aero, so he's trying to bridge across that gap now at the last second. Really punching, not trying to do too much work. At this point it's whether we want to sit in. Remember, in this series there's less benefit to those top 3 positions. It's still important to get the podium if you can for FAL and fastest through the segment, but also just packing out that top 10 is crucial. So if you can conserve yourself a bit on this climb and make sure you're in the top 10 on the later sprint and final climb, that'll be really beneficial. Okay. So we've got Ostock coming through him now. He's pushed hard. Can he hold the line? He flattens out a bit, so there's plenty of time for people to make up. Sam Crofts in 4th. So Leeson's going to come across here comfortably to take first across the line and fastest through segment on this climb. It's all to play for behind him. So you've got a bit of a gap behind Ostock. Then Dimmock coming through in 3rd. A little bit of a bunch here. Just see Corrigan for Eat Dirt Shake just being overtaken by Pitt from Aero. He'll take 5th, Evo, and then some more for Eat Dirt Shake and AHDR. Getting points there. I think Relentless, Jacob Wilson might also get points. So it's nice to see a big variety of people in that front group. As we come onto the downhill, it's very interesting here with the groups that are formed. We've got one guy, assuming Leeson, still out the front, and a couple of bunches behind. Because this course is very undulating, it's much easier for groups to stay away than on necessarily a flat course. So we wonder if these people will be able to form quite a smaller front group than we have in previous races, of maybe 10, 20 riders. If you look at the minimap, you can see how spread out we are so far. So again, there could be a big split here, and if people can stay away, they'll be guaranteed first across the line points at the sprint, even if they're not necessarily big sprinters. So it's definitely in people's favours to work through here, especially those with less of a sprint compared to others. Again, we want to watch and see if people want to super tuck. One thing to be careful on here, especially as a lighter rider, is that a super tuck might actually get you dropped. Some people may have to do work. You see some people are still pushing 2.5 to 3-4 watts per kilo. I think roughly super tucks are worth around 3.2 watts per kilo. So if people are doing significantly more, depending on the steepness and the speed of course, then there's a chance that you may not actually stay with the group. But otherwise, they're a fantastic tool to get you a little bit of rest. So coming down now onto the flats almost for these lead rides, a little bit more of a dip and then onto a flatter section. We'll have to start doing a bit of wheel. Let's see if they start to push hard to try and keep away. So we've got a couple of people, these 2 chase riders from Dirt Super 6, really important if they can work together to get back on. Presumably they'll be on comms together, so they're going to be taking little turns on the front to bridge it. We want to see him kick hard here on the 10% to get on. That's exactly what Mark does. Really well done to him. Played it perfectly. When you're going to try and close a gap, if you're on the flats, you just want to chill up a bit and really make sure you take advantage of any inclines, because that's where you have a massive advantage and your watts will count for far more. Okay, so we've got about 8, 9 in this lead group and a chase group. There is only a couple of riders here, but just behind them there's a much bigger group chasing. So let's see if we can get anyone working together in this. We've got a lot of top riders. We've got Mashed Potato here on the Evo guys, fantastic TTTer. I believe he was in the Evo TTT team that won the Espresso division on Thursday, John Suzuki's playground. I think it's Evo Warriors. We have quite a lot of the, we've got a couple of guys from the Eat Dirt Animales team, who came second, so there's definitely a lot of beef to play out there, with the Animales regularly up there and trying to get revenge, presumably for Evo pipping them by 7 seconds last Thursday. We also possibly have, no, I don't think we have any of the Dirty Watts Alpha team, who were in Doppio, who came second. We might have some of the AHGR Cheesecake crew, who were also Doppio last week. Okay, so as you see, the gap's closing down. I think it's about 6-7 seconds at the moment. And this front group is working hard to stay away. But I think the chasers, with their bigger numbers, will be able to go. The question is how many will get across. See Mashed Potato from Evo going now. And Girdlestone also jumping across. We've got 3 Evo riders trying to make the jump here. And if they can catch them out on this incline, we might not get the full group back. Although given that these guys don't manage to stay in contention over the KOM, they should all have enough punch and be strong enough to get over. Just have a little bit of a look back on the road to see who else we have. And what separation we have. A couple of riders about 14-15 seconds back, about 5. I think they'd be much more sensible not to do too much work here and let this group behind with a couple of TBR riders on the Relents and Neat Dirt Bait guy try and catch up with a group of 10. They might do a bit better if they're trying to make up the distance. A bit further back we have another group, including Oyvind, who was a Cat B Oceans champion last season of ZRL. It was really good to see him stepping up the mark and doing quite well in Cat A. A bit further back we have another couple of riders. Jesse Keats coming back from time off the bike. He's really doing well to come back strongly and being competitive in A. Though today, sadly, with an early hard section, he's been dropped so far. But again, we might be able to grab a few people behind. There's a chase group of 3 behind him. A bit of a mixed team. One of his teammates, Tommy, or Jimmy even, sorry. So they should be able to form a group and work together. Again, that's going to be the important thing through here. If you can get a bit of a group, start working together, it'll make a very big difference. On the downhills, it massively pays off because you have one rider pushing through, hit the front, and someone else can take over naturally as the draft throws them back, and that helps just maintain the group speed. Whereas with 1 or 2 guys, as soon as you're in the front, you just lose your speed, and it just slows you down massively. So the gaps are starting to open up a bit. You can see on the mini map starting to lose people. This front group is starting to come back together, or sorry, this middle group even. People are working hard to try and get into that bunch. It's really important they get across if they can. It is strung out with lots of little groups of 2 or 3. So we've had a very fast start. People are about 12 minutes in, so they're going to be struggling. We're close to their 20-minute PBs for a lot of them, especially with these constant little inclines, false flats like we have here, and having just done the huge punch of the reverse KOM. So we're going to stick with the front group for a little bit. It's managed to come back together thanks to some hard work in the middle, and those Evo guys especially who bridged across. As soon as you see 1 or 2 people go, everyone starts to go. It does help increase this pace. So one thing here, we've got Walt, he's just bridged across and come straight through to the front. One of the real big skills of Zwift is learning how much power you need to get back onto a group and really kind of being able to just do it by eye. So the last thing you want after you just bridged onto a group is to hit the front again, because as you can see, he lost his speed and he got caught out. I mean, he's dropping back now and he's going to have to do even more work. You want to be able to just do the right amount of work just to get to the back of the group, or ideally mid-pack so you're a bit safer for a little bit, and not hit all the way through to the front and then have to work again. As we come through here, we've got a bit of a steep section. It's quite a sharp, horrid punch up, and we do have a lot of these in this course. But with the group speed being so high, we entered that above 50 kilometers an hour with the A's. I think the most of them will just be able to hang in and use their momentum to get over. In the lower categories, it might be a much tougher one. We'll be looking at B+ later in the day in Zone 2. And on them, there's a bit more time to climb, especially if we're talking about lower B, C's and the D category. It's a lot of work for them coming over these climbs, and it's constant effort, which means the times are a lot slower and there's a lot more opportunity for breakaways. It'll be very interesting races in those categories. I'm just going to put the course back on the screen for those who didn't see it, and we can have a little talk through it. Hopefully you can see we just started off with reverse KOM. We're around 10.4 kilometers in, so between the 6.9 and roughly the sprint. So again, people are going to be starting to think about the sprint already. I just want to be conserving and saving their legs a bit. Now the front group's back up to about 30 riders. It's going to be important for people to be able to actually put in the sprint effort, especially with the little climb you can see before it. You want to be doing about 30-second effort, I guess, about 35 seconds normally, to set an FTS time, which is available on this segment. And for a first across the line time, you possibly, if not even longer, especially if you can get a jump, because the sprint itself is through the downhill. And then just after that, we've got another long incline section. It's not steep, it's not particularly horrible. There will be draft for the riders, but it's enough that it causes trouble. And again, after you've just done a sprint, the last thing you want to be doing is having a long, slow grind. You want to be able to just relax and sit in. So again, we might start to lose a few people through that, especially the sprinters who have gone for big points on it. Then finally around, well, almost finally, we have another go up the KOM, this time in the forward direction. Just before 20 kilometers, there is a steep bit, a climb up into it, and then we're on the elevated roads for a while. That initial climb shouldn't break people, but it'll certainly put them into thresholds and the heart rate high. And then you have a long grind, then you have about a 3.5 minute punch up the New York KOM in 3 hard sections. First one's fairly comfortable for most of these riders. I don't think many will be dropped, but the pack may stretch out, and then that second one is the killer. That's where you lose riders. Probably going close to a minute power for almost a full minute to keep away there, especially for these top riders, lots of them who can sustain those efforts. Then you have a long flattish section, relatively long. It feels shorter at the time, especially when you're riding, but watching it you'll notice there is a significant amount of time. And you'll see the top guys again just sitting up, recovering as much as possible. You're not going to win anything there. You want to ideally sit behind someone else. And at the very last section you have a little punch up and then through the banner. So it's all about just maintaining it, chilling out in those flatter sections, and then holding big numbers through the steep section, especially if you get up to about 18% on some of that climb. Then into the finish, it's another downhill finish, which means it's very tactical and timing is crucial. So just going to go back and have a quick look at the breakaway that's happening at the front. It's an odd section to go into downhill, but it's also useful sometimes if you can force a breakaway, especially with a group here, as we've got Matt Yankow. He's a heavier TTT style rider, very strong, regularly helping out in lots of group rides, bringing riders back. He's notorious for being able to just hold huge numbers for a prolonged period of time. So if you're attacking into a downhill, it means that all the riders chasing, if they try and bridge during the downhill, will have to be doing a lot more work than they necessarily do on the flats. And so you can really hurt people if you can get away there. But equally, a group does have an advantage. So if no one makes a concerted effort to chase, it's unlikely that you will stay away. Again, it's best place to drop riders off the back, because if a couple of riders go off the back, they're not going to be able to catch up the group without hurting themselves. So it's not one of those places you're going to stay away, but it's certainly a place you're going to hurt other riders and potentially lose a few off the back. Oops, daisy. And apologies for this, I've managed to mess up slightly. There's been an interruption to the stream. I will try and get it back in a few seconds. In the meantime, I'm just going to have a quick look at the live results, if I can get them up on the screen for you, sorry. So this is just the current situation and numbers. So you can see that obviously with it being ZwiftPower, the distances aren't exactly accurate. Hopefully we can get it back in time for the sprint. You can see lots of riders not quite near their 20-minute PB, but when you're including that they've done a big climb effort, they're certainly working hard and they're going to be struggling. Apologies, this is taking a little bit longer. I will make sure we get it back before the climb, but there's going to be a prolonged interruption here. Seem to be beset by technical issues today, which is very, very frustrating. Okay. Just a few more seconds and we can get back to the stream. Try and get you a result what happened with the sprint as soon as possible. Okay, there we go. Should be back to the stream now. Sorry about that. It's very frustrating. See if we can go back and see some others. It's probably too late to get the others through the sprint now. We'll get the results on the screen for you in a second now. Okay, so hopefully you can see. So we went through the New York sprint. There's mashed potato from Evo in first, Joachim Leeson second, Adam Ossop for Relentless third, Jake Wilson in Relentless fourth as well, so big points for Relentless. For Joachim Leeson's riding dirtier, just for reference. And a couple more points for Evo with Greg Morgan, and PPV for riding dirty. In terms of fastest time, it was Joachim Leeson with riding dirty taking first, another riding dirty rider, PP Valois in second, Dirt Super 6 taking a few more points, and then Crofts from Eat Dirt Shake taking fourth. We'll just go through them quickly. You can also see some of the KOM results. Okay, we'll go back onto the stream. Again, it's all kept quite together through there. The lead groups all managed to keep with each other. Clearly, one of the issues with this course in terms of separating the front group is those who are powerful enough and punchy enough to get over the KOM are also the same riders who are strong enough to hold on through the sprint and have that kind of kick. What would be an interesting route for future ones is having a more long kind of 5-minute base climb to supplement out the pack along with some sprint efforts. Whereas these climbs are very punchy efforts, while they may last 3 to 5 minutes, there is rest in between and they do suit the more punchy riders over those who can just hold those numbers. People more like Yankan with the Dirt Super 6 team. So again, lots of our top teams, which is Dirt Super 6, Eat Dirt Shake, Air and Riding Dirty, all contesting at the top of the table at the moment, are all in this front group and have all been picking up points so far. You can see Yankow just trying to push the pace again at the front. We're putting out close to 500 watts here. Yep. Try and just spread out using this small incline, but again, he's being shut down easy, I wouldn't say easily, but straight away by the rides, knowing that this is exactly the kind of style he wants to go for. And so as soon as he makes a break, you have people on his wheel ready to jump across and take advantage of his draft. It is starting to spread out the pack though. Zooming, you can see that it is breaking a few, but most of them are just able to hold on. And that's all it takes. If you can just hold the wheel in front, most of these riders are strong enough and aware enough that the rest of them around will also be holding wheels. And so you see strong Nathan Miller and some of the riding dirty riders are just sitting at the back, just doing enough to keep in touch, but not too much to waste their energy, with a KOM coming up in about 6 kilometers to the start of it, roughly, maybe 7. There is a little gap opening up at the front though, but I can't imagine it's going to hold, especially with a big downhill coming. Should be able to see the strength of the Evo team here. Got lots of riders in the front group, 3 instantly on that break. So it seems like they're targeting, just trying to make sure they're right at the front and holding on through this. At the moment they're sat in 5th, so just narrowly behind. They're 4 points behind the leaders, 3 points behind Riding Dirty. So a big result here for them could easily shake things back up again and put them back into the lead group. We've also got 3 of the Eat Dirt Shake riders. That's in the Fluoro 3 kit. Just focus on one of their riders now. You see Broster, it's one of the Eat Dirt Animalas regular riders here. Not that you can see him amongst this group. Should be able to see the guy who just stood up. So on the light, guys really pushed on the Eat Dirt Animalas. Been a fantastic TT team. Been winning week in, week out around Espresso and sometimes towards the top end of Doppio for about the past 10-15 TTTs, if not longer in fact. And it's good to see them competitive and doing well in ZRL and in this dirt racing series as well. It's very much the kind of course that would suit Roster, having a bit of punch and also being a very strong, pure watts per kilo rider, especially over 20 minutes and longer distances. However, in this field we do have some exceptional athletes on that, especially looking at Joachim Leeson for Riding Dirty and Yankau, do about 5.4 and 5.3 respectively for 20 minutes. Especially Yankau doing that 83 and a bit half kilos is absolutely incredible. A monstrous athlete. See Chubb from WMC is also similar. He's doing about 5.2 and currently I believe he leads us, James Kay from WMC, so one of his teammates leads us over on the individual standings in A&A+. So we've just got a little breakaway, 4 riders so far coming up this steep section. We're just doing the first part of the KOM section where it's a steep, maybe minute long effort, but then it settles down. We have a long section on these raised roads before we hit the KOM proper. So we're hitting about 6 to 8 on the front to get away, which is definitely manageable for most of these riders, but it's being aware and making sure you're in the draft still. You see we're doing 30 kilometers an hour almost up the climb for 7 to 8% climb. So there is plenty of draft available. You know, that's the difference between doing 8 and 6 up there, which can take, if you're doing 8, most of these rides will be out of contention, but doing 6 and a lot of them will be comfortable enough staying in and not getting dropped at the back. We have lost a couple, an Aero rider and a TBR, and Nathan Millen on the dirt riders, Dirt Caden. Not sure what team's actually riding for today. Lost another WMC rider a bit further back, and it's still a strong front group. The damage isn't really going to be done to the top riders here beyond the KOM itself, where we might see a selection being made for the finish and people trying to hold away all the way to the finish from there. So we've got 3 Aero riders I believe still with us, 3 Eat Dirt Shake, 4 riders from Riding Dirty, and I'm not sure about Dirt Super 6, I can see 4 as well from Dirt Super 6. Most of the teams towards the top have a lot of representation still. There is a bit of a push happening at the moment. Again, Yankau just easing up the pace, taking advantage of his monstrous fitness, but Leeson's got his wheel, or had his wheel. There's a little bit of a gap, but again there's such a nice group behind that he's very, very unlikely to get away, and so he's just eased off. One tactic that people might try, especially if there's a coordinated effort, less so in this group where it's a bit bigger, but it's just to let a rider just get a little bit further ahead, maybe 10 meters, just so he can keep pushing, but isn't far enough away to actually do any damage, and then they're just going to tire themselves out. Matt Yank has much more experience than that. He knew he was going to get caught, so he just dropped in, and he knew the damage had already been done to those riders behind, so there's no point wasting his energy, especially this close to the KOM. We just got a couple more off the back, struggling hard. And Fowler here from WMZ, they've lost a lot of riders recently. It's really important for them if he can keep on, which he does there. Gives a bit of a dig to get in, 4 and 5 watts per kilo. Strongly recommend he goes a bit harder to jump that gap if he can. Makes a big difference just jumping it straight across and then being able to rest, rather than what P-Speed from Aero is doing here, where he's just constantly grinding. So we're down to about 26 now, I think, 27 in the front group. Still large numbers, just less than half the field. Shows the strength of the riders here. One of the downsides of Cat A racing is there is so much draft available, especially on the shorter climbs, where they're able to maintain such great speeds because of their power, that it is harder to drop people than in lower categories at times. Flip side of that is, you know, you do have some absolute monsters. Occasional rider who can do upwards of 6 watts per kilo for 20 minutes. And so you have a big difference between the lower end Cat A riders and the upper end Cat A riders. But when you get a field like this with so many strong riders and multiple riders above 5 watts per kilo, it's unlikely that anyone's going to stay away, even in a course like this. You need at least a group of 2 or 3, I think, over the KOM to guarantee staying away to the finish. So at the moment, Leeson's in 4th place overall on the individual standings. And so I think with today's performance, we'll be looking to take that into 1st place. One mind for the individual standings, it is your best 4 out of 4 races that count. If you do 5, then it'll just be your best 4. If you do 4, then all 4 races will count. We've got Jared Atkins from Super 6 pushing away here. I can't imagine this is a purposeful, intense attack. I think he'll just be on where he's just come off the front naturally. And he's just looking not to do too much extra work. He's only chilling around 4 watts per kilo. So he is definitely capable of far more. I think he might be caught in 2 minds here, whether to try and hold this all the way to the KOM. I would strongly advise that he does not do that. When you hit the start of the KOM, the group momentum will make them just fly through him. He's easing off now, the gap's gone down from about 40 meters to 25. You see at the bottom of the screen. And they're just slowly catching, should just ease off now, let them come through him, just a little kick to make sure he stays on the group. So the start of the KOM should be around 24.5, 25 kilometers in, so we've not got long to go. There is a little kick up towards it if I remember correctly. And that's really the start. It's not the start of the time segment, but it's the start of when you're really in the KOM section. And we're looking for the low 3 minutes, probably up there. This week, Aero without one of their top riders, Cameron Jose, who is currently, I think, 2nd in the individual standings, and that's going to be hurting them a bit. And you can see they have lost a lot of riders out the front group, and without one of your big point scorers, especially in a race like today's, it's going to be hurting them, but hopefully they can maintain their top 4 position and keep in touch with the leaders. Okay, so here we go, just a little rise, then we're starting the KOM segment. See some of the riders have pushed the back, given the strength of the field and being in A field, there isn't as much benefit as in the lower fields of going all the way to the back. They're not power capped, as in the lower fields, while they're not sprint power capped or the power like this effort capped. Things generally are a bit tighter, and so there is a benefit just to drifting towards the back before the line. Pushing through, I think. We may have had someone in the lead there having a bit of a dropout, which is why we suddenly lost connection there. We've got Dimmock off the front though, pushing through, so he's coming through. We've got this flat section, lights seem just drop down a bit more, there we go. Before starting to punch up through this long incline section. See it goes round as a little S bend, and you want to be up to high numbers all the way through. It's got about 5-second lead over the group here. So we want to be seeing him pushing about 6, 7, if not 8 through this harder section, or up to 15 odd %, then settling into a nice rhythm. Got Crofts and Leeson trying to jump across. That's Crofts from Eat Dirt Shake, and then Leeson from Riding Dirty. Similarly, they have teammates just behind with Corrigan from Eat Dirt Shake, and Yankow coming to chase down. What's important is who can pack out the top 10 with more of their riders. I don't know if you saw the scoring chart earlier, but 10th across the line is worth 5 points, 9th across the line is worth 5 points, and the points really go back into the group, so those lower positions are really important if you can start packing out with multiple riders. Sierra have 2 being competitive here, Eat Dirt Shake have at least 3, and potentially 4 with a couple of riders chasing down further back. Brosted, if they can jump across here, it'll be really beneficial. So if they can manage to come through the draft in this flatter, longer section, and just sit in while others do the work to bring them back, it'll be really important. But currently we have 2 riders off the front. Leeson again, who's taken first in all the segments so far, and Ostop from Riding Dirty behind him. So both of those riders from Riding Dirty will be big points, but if they could have a third teammate in there, it'll really help them. Eat Dirt Shake, if they get 3 in here, they won't quite have the same number of points, but they'll still be up there with Riding Dirty. Evo doing particularly well as well, with Morgan and Dave both in there. This a little kick up for the line. I think Lisa and Ostop are both going to be comfortably clear here. It might be sensible for them just to relax a little bit over the top unless they're going to try and break away together. Got English from HDR, who's come through, pushed through those Evo guys. Those Evo guys have really got caught out there doing a lot of work on the flats. They're unlikely to have got points. So we've got again 2 Riding Dirty, Leeson and Ostop, first, second, English HDR in third, Evo taking 4th, Eat Dirt Shake in 6th and 7th, I believe, potentially 10th. We've got a little group, 10, probably 9 riders with TBR Hinkfuss, unlikely to make it across. And then it's very spread out further behind. Just take a look down the road. You can see there's very few riders behind it. It's all really spread out. Show you on the map as you come through. Lots of riders spread out, just getting over the climb. And with less than 7 kilometers to go, about 9 kilometers to go, but less than maybe 6 even at the end of the downhill, things will start to stay away. It's going to be a big grind to the finish. More of an individual time trial or small group time trial style riding to get there. We've got a lead group of 9 riders. Though Corrigan has just been caught out here. It's one of the dangers on these downhills. Once you get dropped off the back versus the group, it's very, very hard to come back. It's Crofts and Dimmock as well. So Dimmock did manage to make it back on. Big effort from him. It's going to be really important for Crofts and Corrigan if they can get together and work to get back on. So that's another 2 riders from Eat Dirt Shake in the lead group. In terms of it, we'll have 2 riders from Riding Dirty, 2 from Evo, Aero rider and Eat Dirt Shake rider in the front group at the moment. And we'll see if Corrigan can make it back on, and Crofts and Dimmock. While on the downhill the gap is opening up, but we're still looking about 3 seconds. It does look very stretched out while we're on the downhill, but when we get onto the flats and the inclines, that's going to be far, far less. And it is going to be possible for him to jump across, as those lead riders may not work together. They should have the motivation to, but the finish points aren't necessarily as important as if this was an earlier climb, and you're going to drop your main rivals for multiple point segments. Just a reminder, the sprint coming up here does not count. You might see a couple of people pushing, but hopefully they've read all the information put out by the series organisers and know that it's not going to be counting for any points. What is important though is there's a little incline afterwards where the riders chasing down might try and jump back on. As he crosses now up to 10 seconds, it's very hard to compete with the speed of the group. Corrigan seems to be having some internet connection issues, but this is where he needs to punch up hard. 5.2 watts per kilo probably won't cut it. Really needs to be going all out here to get back onto that lead group. Dimmock's doing similar. but he's just a bit too far back now. 12 seconds isn't going to be possible. Okay, so we've had it. Corrigan seems to really be having some connection issues, so we keep losing connection while following him. I think, yeah, he's given up on that chase now, so we're down to 7 rides in the lead group. Having a look at them, Leeson's obviously going to be the top competitor here and the favourite to take the points, although he's gone very hard now 3 times. So we'll see if he's got much left for the finish, but his 16.5 watt per kilo sprint should be competitive, especially with the mashed potato having been dropped further back for Evo. Is probably his main competitor in terms of pure sprint. And can't see Stu Featherson from Dirt Super 6. Dimmock will be up there, but he's just a bit lighter and with a predominantly downhill finish, or at least relatively downhill finish, it'll be tough. Raw watts are very much important to help you get a higher top speed, and timing will also be really important on it. And Yankow will be pushing the pace yet again. He knows his sprint around his current 90-day PB is around 10 watts per kilo, and so it's just not going to be anywhere near competitive enough for the top guys. So his best chance is try and go for a breakaway, but sadly the rest of the course is fairly flat, and to lose some of these guys on there is going to be practically impossible for him. What he can try and do is just drop a couple more off the back, especially if the pace maintains at these kind of numbers, around 4.5, 5, sometimes 5.5 on the front. Got one of the little inclines here. If someone goes very hard, they might lose people, but there's not much in it for people here. There is a chase group about 25 seconds back, and we've got 5 or so kilometers to go. So if someone does get dropped here, then they're going to be in this big chase group and losing out on a lot of points. So, and for most of them, it's in their benefit just to try and stay in the front group, not do too much work, unless they totally back their fitness. So just a bit more background, these Dirt Super 6 riders are a group who I think formerly, well currently as well, the Dirt Diggler TTT team, a lot of ties with Kiss Racing, and normally Matt Yankow, who's riding for Eat Dirt Shake, is one of their members. It'll be interesting to hear if one of them has the info on what's happened, why he's not riding with them this time, whether he joined Eat Dirt Shake beforehand and they've got together to try and prove a point and beat him. Be interesting to hear. But these Dirt Super 6 are normally Dirt Diggler, who used to be an incredibly strong TT team and still are up there, but there seems to be a lot more competitive TT teams these days. They're regularly hovering around the top 10 espresso teams and top 20 overall week in, week out, and have done for probably the best part of a year and a half, 2 years. And they used to be regularly in the top 3. He's one of the teams we looked up to a lot and tried to see what they were doing well. At the moment this chase group isn't quite doing enough to get anywhere near the front guys. We're actually losing distance despite the numbers, and given they're going from about 7th down to 22nd, then there's lots of points available and there's a big variation on the scoring, so it's going to be important they save themselves and have a big sprint at the end. Whereas for those lead 7 riders, in terms of scoring, they're looking at 100 down to about 77 points. So, you know, there is a variation, there is, you know, lots of points available, but outside of the top 3, you're looking at 80 to 77. So, you know, if you're not going to be on the podium, then it's going to make very little difference. And the key point is just to stay with the leaders, stay at the front. Some of the frustrations with this New York course is that because there's so many different segments, Zwift has a lot of issues. Whether you see on the mini map, just at the bottom, you see it's constantly changing when they take turns. And it'll be a very, very welcome update if anyone involved is listening in, to have your route displayed on the bottom that you've selected, not just one of the possible routes that you're on. Especially in New York when lots of them overlap regularly, you get a lot of changing and it's not particularly helpful. The one welcome thing is the little arrow that you might be able to see above the current your rider, so you know which direction along the base you're following. But it'll be quite an easy fix for them to actually just have it in a constant direction and displaying the route you're on. For those who aren't aware, in terms of scoring for teams, so the competition we normally focus on, it's based on the top 4 riders, but you're allowed to enter up to 8 riders, but the top 4 scoring riders what counts for your team total. What is interesting though with those additional riders are that they can easily push down other teams and stop them scoring quite as many points, so it is in benefit to get as many riders as you can in your team, especially if you're one of the stronger teams. And potentially specifically target segments where you think the opposition will do well and have certain riders just do them, not necessarily looking to score well overall, but just decrease the number of points the opposition can score. You can see the lead group just spread out a little bit with that attack we had up the slight incline. But again, they're all in touch, all comfortably within the 5-meter drafting distance. Can't see much, although pit from air has just let a little gap open up, although it's closing it again now. One of the more odd finishes in NYC, where normally we do this in the other direction. It's not far to go now. Start to see people thinking about ramping it up and attacking. You might be able to see on the minimap just towards the top where the banner is. It is downhill still. Want to get the speed early. You see Ostot starting to push, but Leeson is the main rider. Look, you see he's sitting at the back. He's going to want to use a draft to come through, and he's starting to go now. So he thinks this is the timing. If someone can jump on his wheel. They've all gone a little bit too late, so he is going to get a gap off the front here. No one went early enough to keep with him. Should be able to see the line just around this left-hand bend, so Leeson is going to be clear. Ostot's going to come through. Might just get overtaken by Morgan in second. Morgan's pushing hard and he has the benefit of the draft. Morgan's going to come through Ostot. And then English from HGR flying through. Really good push from English there. So see there, it's very important for you coming from the back, keeping the draft as long as possible. In this chase group, we've got a lot of people going early. We had Hinkfuss and Lacey, I believe, from Eat Dirt Kate off the front. He's gone way too early, sadly, and does not have the sprint. But if you're in that position, it's better to try something. PJ King's there just waiting a little bit. And attacking again, having got too close to the front. If he keeps pushing hard, he's going to come through here. Broster's doing very well. Really good performance from Broster, but I think Kings is going to come through here and take, I think, should be 8th place. It's not spelling well yet, so 8th place there. Broster coming up with 9th. Some good results from the rest of the pack. See if we can get back and see the next group of people. So here we've got Mashed Potato. I believe will have been dropped early, possibly after the sprint, and certainly on the climb. But he's got a monstrous sprint, and in a small group, you might want to just bide his time, see who goes first. It's one of the key things when you're in a small group, you've got to play the opposition. If you think they're tired, it can be very beneficial to go early, push really hard, break away and get that gap, and mentally you'll just destroy them. While there is plenty of time for them maybe to come back, they're not going to want to. So you've got one person going in, so Mashed Potato's just going to sit in his wheel. And he's got to make a decision now whether he wants to push all the way through or just sit in behind, wait for a bit and attack again. So he's going for the second option. He's just going to sit in here, just maintain the numbers they do, let them do the hard work and then kick at the end, knowing he's got a much, much bigger sprint. So if you hit the downhill, I'd like to see him start to go about now. If he can get a gap here, he'll be gone. He's leaving it quite late there we go, there's the move. And no one's going to keep on his wheel there. Malloy's left a bit too big a gap to open up. He won't be making it back across. And we've got another couple of riders coming through. Again, tactic hit of Valor from Ryan Dirty Man should be able to catch here. Let's see how he gets on. It's going to be very tight across the line. Doesn't quite make it with that late attack. Just a few seconds earlier, he might have got it. But really good effort for him, fighting for every single place, which is important for some of those positions, especially going, I think it's from the 9th position to the 30th position, there's 5 points less. So if you, I'll quickly check that just to confirm. Yep, so from 20th to 21st is 5 points less, from 30th to 31st is 5 points less, so it's important in this group. So who can take 30th for those extra 5 points? Let's have a look. We've got Tob from Evo, seems to have timed it quite well, coming through late. And then Tabor from WMZ. Okay, so Jose was riding for Arrow, my mistake. But not a good day out for him. Perhaps struggled on the first KOM. But hopefully should have enough here to come through the riders around him. And it's quite a big group here, so you'll want to be leaving it late. Unless you know there's a real big, strong sprinter. At which point you'll want to make sure they're on your wheel and you're just going to watch them on the right hand side, wait till they go up and jump at the same time, using their draft to come through. And hopefully pip them on the line. We've got Oyvind in this group as well, Cat B rider, and very experienced. Done very well in last season's ZRL in Cat B with the Sprock Stars. So again, he's experienced. We'll see how he does against Keats and Jose. Apologies in advance if I'm pronouncing people's names wrong. Please let me know. I'll try my best. So yeah, everyone just waiting very late there, but Oyvind doing very well. Big numbers, just timing it late. Akers, who had first, but we'll see. Oyvind should come through here just before the line. Really well done to him. And then Jose in third in that group, and Keats in fourth. Really well done, Jesse. Nice to see you back and competing. Okay, I think that's rounds up most of our riders there coming through the line. Well done to everyone today. See if we can get some of the results up on the screen for you. We won't be able to get the individual or the team standings, but we'll be able to get the ZwiftPower results. Okay. So here we go. So it's Leeson in first, who's riding Dirty. Jason English from HGR came through strongly in second, really well done to him. Greg Morgan from Evo in third. Ben Pitt in fourth, who I believe is riding with Aero. I will just quickly confirm that. We'll be able to see in the rider classification, hopefully. So yeah, Ben Pitt for Aero. You can just see their points individually. And then we had Cheatham from Evo Warriors, Ostot Relentless in fifth, Yankow in seventh, who was riding for Eat Dirt Shake. PJ Kings, who I believe was Dirt Super 6, in 8th, leading the next chase group. Broster Eat Dirt Shake in 9th, and Relentless Jacob Wilson in 10th. So we've got a lot of representation you see from Evo, which is strong for them. Eat Dirt Shake with a couple of guys, Riding Dirty with a couple of guys. So it should be very tight again at the top, although I think at least an outstanding individual performance might put Riding Dirty up into first for this week. Especially with his teammate doing very, very well on the segments. Just take a quick look down just so everyone can see where the standings are. Again, Evo really doing well as a team. Lots of dirt rides about, although lots representing different teams. So while it looks like it dominated, it's all split up between a couple of teams. Aero with a couple of good points as well. I'll just take a look on the primes. Just give it a bit of a quicker refresh. See if we've got any more. There we go. So we can ignore NY Sprint. That isn't a sprint that counts for this, but we've got the NY Climb Reverse, Sprint 2 and Climb Forward, which all count. So this is just the first over the line, which is valuable points, but the real important ones are going to be the fastest through the segment, which is 20 points. And just take a quick look for you, fastest through the segment, 20 points first, 17 for second, 15 for third, with an even spread throughout. A consistent spread throughout, whereas first cross line's more even spread throughout. 10th, 9th, then 8th, 7th, 6th, 5 points. As we go down, so it's a much more even spread, so it is important to pack out the first across the line. We should be able to see Ed Gray there as a rider in B, so it's been really impressive to see him on the sprint coming in second overall. Same with Jeb Stone, I believe, who's might be B plus, sorry, I think for Ed Gray. I'm not sure about Jeb though. I believe that is also a B plus team. We'll quickly going through. On the downsides again of the prime segment, while the results aren't quite finalised, we see it live, we see all the categories mixed in together. It'd be nice to be able to separate it out. As you can see, really big performance from Ostop from Relentless and Leeson from Riding Dirty, taking a lot of the points on these segments. So thank you very much for watching this. We'll see the results next week. We'll just take a quick look at next week's course. So it's a TTT, triple flat loops. This is the website where you'll find most of the information. It's teamdirt.racing, and lots of this course information available here. So triple flat loops next week's fairly flat course, but it is interesting. We go through a couple of dirt segments. They're not highly dirt like the jungle, where it'll be worth a bike swap, but they do cause a bit of a change. And there's a lot of undulation, as you can see through here as we come through the S's on this section. And we have this long climb out and then through the S's again. And then we're starting off as well with the desert, where we'll do a lot of damage to teams. It's really important to be efficient through there. And we'll see people really suffering at the end, going out too hard. So it is an interesting course. It'll be good to see how all these teams get on in the TTT. Very different to the points racing. And it'll definitely play into some teams' hand more than others. Thank you very much for joining us this week. We'll hopefully see you next week. We'll be covering C, I believe, the C races in Zone 1. Okay, so thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.